We've been mates now for a few years, and Tim and I think very similarly on a lot of different things. We're on sort of similar wavelengths, and as some of you already may know, I was actually looking into getting into podcasting with other people pretty soon. And Tim actually came and approached me first before I had asked anyone else. But he come to me randomly one day and goes, I want to do a podcast. I've got some stuff I want to talk about. Would you do it? I said, surely you're fucking cheating me. Like, you've just come and asked me right off the cusp. And he's like, no, I'm serious. And I'm like, yeah, I was literally about to ask you. So it worked out perfectly. It was like a happy marriage in the end. So he decided to come on today. He wants to talk about a few things, particularly about men and about sort of males in society, and a lot to do with sort of the expectations of males these days. Both these days, but also back once upon a time, and how we've sort of seen changes over time. And we've also seen the effects of mental health, depression or states of depression, and how, they may manifest in us and how they're having a bit of an effect on us overall. And Tim feels like he's got something to offer and talk about today. So got him on the show, and here he is. Tim, take it away.
Awesome. First of all, thanks for having me on.
All good, man. All good.
Thank
you for coming on.
First episode.
Very first. Nothing before this.
Good job, man.
Thank you. Yes, I'll give myself a clap as well.
So
that was good.
Yeah, basically what we were talking about, which I think is important, which is a good platform for everyone to kind of know and hear about, is that mental depression that men have to go through, especially once you get to that age. There's levels to it. So like when we're younger, everything is just so cruisy. You know what I mean? We're going out, we're partying, like we're hooking up with girls, like we've got a roof over our head, everything, yeah?
Yeah. Sorry, can I stop you 1 sec? I want to ask, you say depression or mental depression. Are you talking about literal depression, like being diagnosed with depression, or sort of feeling down in the dumps, having like depressive states here and there, but may not necessarily be diagnosed?
Well, I would maybe say both. It's easy to transition from one to the other too, yeah?
Yeah.
Depending how deep you go down that rabbit hole. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
It's flip of a coin, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think it's fair to say a lot of people, including males, whether or not they'll show it, they will be experiencing some kind of depressive state in their life at some point. Even if it's transiently and kind of temporarily, it's there nevertheless. But yeah, you were going to say.
No, I was just saying before, I think there's levels in a male's life where I can see it now more than ever, in the stage that I'm at. Still early in my life, technically, but you start off as a teenager, you got a roof over your head, you're not thinking about necessarily the future. You're just thinking about, exactly right. What do I have really? I've just got my mates from school going out, this and that. Then you transition into a young adult. Okay, cool. Now I just maybe focus on buying a car and still going out, getting to know people, find a partner, this and that. Then you get married, and then, or you find that partner, and then this is where it really comes into effect. Then those pressures come in as, how are we going to do this? When we need to buy a house, how are we going to afford this house? Then you start looking at society going, oh my God, inflation. How are we going to afford this? Houses.
That's another thing, inflation.
How are we going to?
It just comes whenever it does. Like, we can't predict it.
Oh, 100%.
Maybe to a little degree, but like we probably didn't see this coming as it is now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You rewind to 2019, 2018, 2017. Nothing was remotely close to this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a coffee now, I got a large coffee the other day, $6, right? I remember I could go get a coffee, for $2, $3.
I don't remember it being that low. I remember $3.20, but even that, fucking, that's robbery, $6.
Yeah, $6 for a coffee.
That's all milk as well.
Yeah. But yeah, straight off the point, I mean, I think it's just once you think about that, it's a lot for a man who is more, shit, now I'm visualizing what I have to do now. Yeah. Now this is starting to get tough, right?
Just to get by.
Just to get by, exactly right.
Just to survive, yeah.
Then you're thinking, okay, well, I can't stay at home with my parents because it's embarrassing. I want to be my own independent person. But the only way to do that, right, is to buy the house. You need really another partner who will do that to you.
Yeah.
So a lot of men go, okay, well, I can't do it without you. You can't do it without me. traditionally, let's get married, let's buy a house, let's do this, right?
Yeah, and man covers everything.
Yeah.
Back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what you're going to say. Well, I think you were going to say that.
So,
yeah.
But now it's like, it used to be, the man does all the work and a woman looks after the kids. Now it's not even close to that. Once you have a kid, the mounting pressure is you both need to work financially. If someone turns around, if you both have standard incomes, right, it's not enough to get by. So you put even more pressure on your partner and on yourself as a man. So as a woman, she's stressed out too.
Yeah, of course.
But then
she's looking at you to be that rock.
That rock, and you're looking at the same thing. But
and you're trying to maintain that whilst feeling the pinch from financial pressure.
Yeah.
Like it's...
Yeah, I mean, to unwind, you might want to say, hey, you know what? Let's go out and let's just, go book a trip to Thailand at the end of the year, right? Where, a lot of people will go there, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not that expensive, right? But now in society, how are we going to do this? How are we going to pay for this? It's not even in the average person's mind.
Yeah. I even hear of examples of people these days. Sorry if I cut you off, but I thought it was a good time to offer an example. I've been speaking with people who have straight up just come out to me and just gone, the most basic things we need, just the essentials to get by, even just like food, clothing and that is getting like...
It's crazy.
Like they can afford it, but they have to cut out something else that is still pretty important, but they still have to cut it out. And it's like, okay, your essentials are shelter, clothing, food, and your bills. But it's like even things like bills are starting to get a bit out of hand. Like, was it electricity is going up or something? It went up this year or was going to go up or something? Like it's just crazy. And obviously it's having effects. And don't get me wrong, we're not discounting the effects that these things have on women. What we're saying is there's that inherent expectation of the males to be ahead, to take that lead a little bit more. Even if it's a bit more, the onus is largely on them, or the majority is on them. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, a female naturally is going to be more kind of protective of their child, right?
Yeah.
It's just how it was for moons and moons of years. Not saying that men don't care, but women are naturally more sheltering, more loving than men are to a degree, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously it makes sense. They want to stay home. They want to do this, and the man always wants to provide. And it's ingrained in most men. They want to say, you know what? I want to earn more than this. I want to be anything you need.
Yeah.
I'm going to there support you.
Yeah, I want to go better.
Right. So I need to earn this amount of money. But the thing is, you're sacrificing all your time now for money just to get by. And then you're not spending any time with your kids or your wife. So what happens in most situations, I mean, we were discussing off camera before, all these divorces that are happening, it's like I did some research on it. It was like a 40% in Australia. That was in 2019. And through 2020 now, it's gone up to about 55% from 2020 to now. So you got to think about 45% of marriages now are lasting, 55% aren't. So basically 1 in 2 people are getting divorced.
Oh, right now, yeah, 55% aren't. So more than half aren't.
That's what I'm saying.
It's fucking crazy.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because...
scary.
Yeah, it is scary. And I think, like, this not necessarily is the point that I'm trying to get at, but I mean, a lot of guys don't talk about this. This is why it's important. This podcast is important to spread awareness, because I think men don't ever feel like you're alone and don't ever feel like you can't talk about it.
Yeah.
People need to reach out. Suicide rate is the highest for men.
Yeah.
Men have such a high suicide rate compared to females. That's because we might be embarrassed of those problems. We don't think, okay, we don't know how to communicate, or we might feel like a personal defeat against that, like less of a man.
Yeah.
If I say, oh, I'm not doing that well, or
that we should talk
or I break down and cry, for example, it's going to kind of, where a woman could do that to a point, and her friends are going to embrace them. But men are thinking, oh, yeah, exactly right. But men are thinking I'm a failure if I do that. So the only way, all the mounting pressure, they might try and kill themselves because they're like, I failed as a man. And touching on that subject, that's like my father was a very successful businessman, was in Telstra for about 25 years, climbed the corporate ladder. Yep. Then he went into hotels, bought hotels, doing extremely well. And at the time, which was great, he had my mother through the hotels. So she would look after us when he was in Telstra, me and my brother.
Yep.
And then for the hotels, when we were a bit older, she lent her hand and they did it together as a team.
Wasn't that when you were living on your own for a bit? Because your parents were always working?
No, that was later. That was for real estate.
Oh, there's another one.
Yeah. So the hotels put a huge strain on them, but they did that. But anyway, they came out on top. Then my dad goes, okay, well, I'm doing really great now. The whole idea in his mind was to set up his kids, was to set up my mum and himself. So his initial plan was, okay, as a provider, as a father, as the man of the house, I want to be able to turn around one day and give my sons their own houses. Because I never want them to struggle, and I want all my hard work and determination and grit and grind be worth something. So by giving it to these guys, my blood, that nothing's more important than family, that was his goal, his mindset. Which is what most men would try and do. Yeah. Because what's more important than family? Nothing's more important than family, right?
Correct, yeah.
So
what else can you live for?
He was doing so well, and he finally got to that stage. Then they sold that. Then he tried real estate, went into real estate. Then a few certain things happened in that, and there was money that was lost. One of the bookkeepers was stealing money from us. They had to take it to court. They didn't get any money from that bookkeeper in the court. She hid their funds, took like maybe 150K off them.
Fuck.
And then they had to spend all the legal fees on top of that. And then it suffered mentally for him a bit, because he felt like, well, this is money that, is a loss. He never dealt with loss because he was so successful.
Well, yeah.
So then
everything's relative, yeah.
Then he went through that loss, and then he got to the point where I was a teenager, and he went through his first stage of depression because he was losing in life.
Yeah.
He never went through losing, right? And then he went to the point of, I'm a failure now as a father, and then suicidal thoughts were in his mind.
Has he told you this?
Yes.
Specifically?
Yes.
Okay.
He said I got a phone call one day saying that he was going to kill himself at the Reservoir train station. He was going to jump in front of the train. Yeah. So
man, sorry to
mentally, it was a lot for him to deal with. Fast forward, he's, kind of got back on the horse, kind of went through it. Then it got to a stage later in life. I was young 20s. I was still living at home, and he had depression still. And then he goes, I can't sleep. I need alcohol to get me through. And then he would cry. He was not the man. He was a shell of the former man he was. And the only way to get through to him is what I said to him is, I said, Dad, this is not who you are. If you want to give up on your life, give up on your life. You want to sit here and drink yourself to death or kill yourself, go right ahead. But I'll tell you one thing, you'll always be remembered as a coward. You'll be remembered as someone who never stuck it through, someone who has given up. All the things that you've never done your whole life is what you're going to be remembered for. These last few years of depression, if you can't overcome this and move forward, then as far as I'm concerned, what kind of role model are you to me?
Yeah, that too. Yeah. Which is all worse than the perceived failure with his business or his real estate ventures going under.
But that's what I'm saying.
But you don't realise that at the time.
How can you? Because money is top of everyone's list, essentially, yeah? If you have money, you're deemed as successful. That's not the case,
No, it's not.
There's plenty of career people who sacrifice work. Then they don't have kids. They don't have a social life. They don't have friends. They're all business, right? Yeah, they might be successful, might have a nice car, might have a nice home, but who are they sharing that with?
No one. And sorry to add, they're doing exactly what all the rest of society could do if they chose not to have a family or chose not to have, say, a lavish home. They might be able to invest more in vehicles, travel, watches, all that sort of stuff, the materialistic things. But we could all do that.
You know, it's like if we can get a loan for a house for $500,000, we can get a loan to buy a Ferrari or a Lamborghini. True? You're going to be looked at like, oh, fuck, you got a Lambo. That's sick. But do you have a house? No. If you can only afford one or the other, which one's the smarter thing, the more wiser thing to do is to invest in your property, to give yourself a future. So any of us can do what you're saying that a person who doesn't have a family can do, but we don't do that because we choose to have families.
Well, exactly right.
And that's more fulfilling at the end of the day.
Exactly right. And I mean, it is. And sometimes you get swept up in life and everything else that comes through for your life, and you think, what, like, how am I going to... You're just thinking of one thing. Family, supporting my family, having an inheritance one day to give to them, to deemed as being successful.
Yeah.
But you haven't... Yeah, maybe some men can do that, but then they're sacrificing everything, so their kids might not even care. I worked with a guy who was overseas and working, doing these things. He said, I don't have any relationship with my kids. They don't even want to see me because he was never there. And I said, well, are you trying? He goes, I'm trying. They don't want a piece of me because it affected things at home.
He left too late.
So he left all that, the raising of the kids, all of that for his partner.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he, would send the money and stuff, I think, but obviously the relationship took a turn. There was no love left because there was no time with each other, and then it got hard, and then obviously she resented him, and then it was pretty much that resentment was moved forward to the kids every time he was brought up in conversation. So they've grown to hate him. Because if the person's raising you, one person, and says your father's left you, you're obviously going to take that person's side because you're not mature enough to make that understanding of, you don't know what life is, so you're just going to believe what that your main carer is giving you.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll just finish off basically what I said. So if we rewind back to what I was saying, that he was in such a terrible place, he felt like a failure, felt like a shell of a man, a former who he used to be. He was obviously tried to commit suicide. They've pulled him back saying, this is what happened. I remember one time I was at work, he tried to do it again. I got a phone call saying your dad's gone to hospital because he's tried to kill himself.
Who told you this? Who pulled him back when you said pulled back before?
Well, the first one was at the train one,
yeah.
And the second time he tried to do something at the home. It was probably like, I don't know, related to alcohol and pills, antidepressant tablets, things like this, like more of an overdose or something like that, right? So I was like, you know what, it took a toll on me. This is when I went to the house and I told that conversation, I said, if you want to give up and be this person, when I have kids one day, when I get married, when the legacy of you is going to be nothing. I said, you're nothing to me. If you give up on life and do this, as far as I'm concerned, I never had a father, and any memory of you is completely gone. I said, I need you to be better, be who you truly are, and fight through this. If you don't fight through this and you give up and you try and hurt yourself or do anything, you will never be mentioned in my breath for as long as I live. And there will be no memory of you to tell my your grandkids or anything like that one day. And you know what he said?
Oh, no, yeah, go.
You know what he said to me after that? He turned around and he had some tears coming from his eyes. He was obviously depressed from the fact. But you know what he did after that? Let's fast forward a little bit longer.
I was going to ask you.
He was still going through some stuff. Then we lost everything, right? Everything. So they had to sell the house, right? They had to sell the investment properties, right? They had nowhere to live. We had to... He went into a place in the country and was given support there just for him. Oh. He had to do like shock treatment for his brain. He had to do...
What? As in he had to get shocked?
Shock treatment for his brain. It's like a form of like a depression kind of...
They literally shock his brain?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, I didn't know that.
And yeah, so they shocked his brain. It was a point of like anti-depression techniques that they do.
Yeah.
And my mum was living with me at the time. We had to find a rental, and then one of my friends had a rental, and we went there, and it was hard.
Outside of town? Like...
Yeah, Thomastown.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it in case you didn't want to.
That's all right. Yeah, so like we had to go through that and then start again. But it was probably the best thing ever, because not only was it good for me because I was sheltered, then I found out how hard it is to be a man, how much things I have to do, not just to look after my mother, but to obviously build a future with my partner, build something to look forward to, understanding how hard it is. Because if I just go into it from having an easy background and always being looked after and having a really decent upbringing,
Yeah.
and never have to fight for anything, I'm going to go into society completely
Oblivious.
oblivious, naked to the truth. I'm not going to know anything.
Also, as soon as the shit hits the fan, you're not going to know what to do.
I'll just break down and I'll go running. I need some money. Oh, this is hard. What do I do? You know, I won't be able to make those decisions for myself because it's the first time I've gone through it. So that really built my character up and me to strive to be the best. And this is why, you know, I have those things now. Yeah, I'm married to a beautiful person who I love inside and out. I've got an amazing daughter. I've got a house. You know, we've got our cars paid off. We're both working. We've both strive to be the best. We don't have all the money in the world, but we're happy.
Yeah, fucking oath.
I always, you know, you know my work. They call me for work all the time. I always say no.
You got the luxury to say no, yeah.
I've got the luxury to say no.
Fucking
Because
oath. Don't sugarcoat that.
my family is more important than extra money, right? I could make maybe $800-900 for a Sunday shift or something, right? You know, and I say no to it because what's the point of doing that if I can't spend it with the people that I love?
Yeah, because you lose out more time then.
You know, if I say, hey, let's go do this, you know, even if it's something small like, hey, let's go for a nice walk today, and then maybe we'll go out for coffee, you know, and then we'll clean up the house a bit, and then we'll watch a movie at night. You know what I mean?
And I want to add something to that in a sec. Yeah.
So all these things just really comprise of how we should live and what we do, and people get lost in the major goal. And just with my dad on that point, the last thing I'll say about it is he said to me, he goes, Tim, you've completely changed my mind on this whole thing.
That's sick.
He goes, those words really shook me to the core.
I didn't know that, for the record, by the way.
And it shook me not only to the core, but it made me want to be that again. So what did he do? My grandfather was still alive at the time. He asked him for a small loan. He studied. All right, at the age of like 70, he was studying aged care. He could have been in aged care himself at that point.
Yeah, good point.
Right? But he studied. He completed his qualifications. He got a job. Then he got another qualification for aged care as well, dealing with disability and stuff as well. He did that. He works. He was doing all these things. He showed us this is who he wants to be. He used to be a DJ. He started picking up that. He did like a little marathon. He did some runs.
Oh yeah.
He picked up dancing. He got involved.
I know about dancing, yeah.
He got involved in the community, and he said, you know what? His father passed away. He was in a better state. He did the whole funeral. He pretty much spoke the whole entire funeral about what happened. He conducted himself so professional. And I said to him, I'm so proud of the way that you spoke at his funeral and the way that you presented yourself and everything as well. And he was a completely different guy at that point. At that stage, my mother went back with him, right?
Back together, yeah.
And,
It's good.
you know, and now they're both living together and they're happy. And, you know, he's still working. They've still got enough money. You know what I mean? They're living in the country and life is good. And he didn't allow himself to give up because he could have ended his life 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But he chose words that I said to him correlated in his mind to say, yeah, you know what? I'm a fighter. There's more to life than this. I need to live my life. Every moment is precious. We're only here for a small time. Let's utilize it. Let's do it. Let's not bitch and moan and complain about small things in life. Let's just push through and treat every day like the most that we can, the most fulfilling way that we can. Not just, oh yeah, I'm going to go, I can't be bothered today, or I'm depressed today. You know what? Like,
what I wanted to know from you is when you said those things to your dad to try and get him off the canvas, did you, in your own mind, think, fuck, I can actually do this here? Did you think I can help? Or do you think I'm just winging it?
Well, look, I went through every single avenue of you can't support people sometimes. Some people cling on to that shelter. Some people cling on and say, oh, I'm upset.
To the misery.
Because they want you to enforce that. Are you okay? What can I do for you?
Yeah.
La la la. Right? There's only so long you can do that until you have a breaking point and you say, you're not getting out of this. Oh, but I don't feel right. I'm depressed. I don't want to see anyone. I'm upset. Then it gets to the point of anger, right? Which I was feeling.
Yeah.
Of, this isn't my father. This isn't anyone I know. This is just some loser. So then obviously it comes to the point, tough love. Tough love needs to be given.
Yeah, yeah.
And that is the biggest motivator of all, is tough love sometimes. Yeah?
I suppose it is, yeah. I suppose it is.
It's
And
like,
people,
it's like I lost 20 kilos, right? Recently.
yeah.
Right? Because I was,
Talk about that, yeah.
I was stress eating because of my old
The
job.
old job.
And I wasn't enjoying it, and a lot of pressure on my back, and I didn't have time, and I wasn't happy, and I was trying to work, and I thought, oh, this will be a great job. It wasn't, right? You got to do what makes you happy. But because I had all that financial pressure of, oh, what am I going to do if this doesn't work out? What am I going to do? You know? Yeah, and obviously having my daughter and figuring out all these things in life, it was scary, and I didn't want to fail, and I would not allow myself to fail, which is why I passed my probation. But mentally, it wasn't good. So long term, I was gaining weight. I was stress eating at night. I wasn't talking to my partner. I wasn't spending proper time with my daughter. I wasn't really even seeing friends.
Just going to bed.
Just going to bed. I just wanted that, like, hold myself like this and just kind of have that depression of, this is my safe space. I wake up in the morning not wanting to go to work. So it clicked. I said, as hard as this is, I'm leaving. I left on good terms with my old job. I came back.
Yeah.
Right? Never been as happy as I was.
When you went back.
And didn't have the stress, and now I can focus on the things that are important to me, which is my family, which is my friends, which is, the people in my circle.
Yeah.
This is why even me wanting to be on this podcast is showing myself, is showing people, is doing things. It's not just sitting here and saying, oh, I'm going to do it. So always stay in your lane and do things that will make you happy, and live. You don't need to show things off. You just need enough for you
To fulfill yourself.
Exactly right, to fulfill yourself. But don't ever think you can't do it. You know what I mean? Don't ever stop and go, I can't do this. This is too hard. This is too stressful. People need to fail in order to get better.
Yeah, at least a few times.
It's important. It's very important to never run from your fears. Always go straight into it.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Oh, that's a valid argument to make. As long as it's not threatening your safety, or the risk of something is that high that it's more likely to kill you.
Yeah, but I'm talking more in depth of, like, if there's ever anything you're struggling with, if there's ever any self-doubt, if there's something that you're too scared to do, how do you know it's going to be scary if you never take that leap, if you never try it?
It's because of what you've been told.
Exactly. It's all in your head. I'd rather face my fears and attack it head on, because then the sooner I do that, the sooner I'm going to learn from it, the sooner I'm going to understand it, the sooner I can be better. And
don't get me wrong, there's both a social and a protective mechanism to learning what we should fear and what we shouldn't fear based on the relative risks of those things, of what, how it could kill you, for example. But at the same time, we learn from a very young age generally what we should fear and what we shouldn't.
100%.
And like I heard this or read this one day that someone had said, how do you know that you need to fear a snake or a spider? If a very, very young child, like a toddler, like
my daughter,
your daughter's age, goes up to a snake, she's not going to go, oh fuck, that's a snake, I better not go next to it. She's going to go, oh, that's an animal, it's moving, I should pat it. How do you learn that?
Yeah,
you get told.
Exactly right.
You get told. My whole life, I was never scared of spiders, but I was always told that they're all dangerous. So my whole life I thought, well, they're dangerous. So if I get touched by them, I'm probably going to get bitten. Or if I try and grab my hand and get bitten. But then I found out, like, over time, it's like, no, a lot of spiders actually aren't. That's one example. Or other animals that look big and scary, intimidating, but they're only going to attack you if you trigger them a certain way or look at them a certain angle. Now, it's all those little things like that.
But that's true in society. That's like when you talk about, like, the matrix and what the government puts through us. You know, you need to do this, you need to do that. You know, you need to get married, you need to buy a house, you need to have kids, right?
Yeah.
Repeat the cycle. They don't tell you anything. We never learn in school
Think for yourself.
to think for yourself, and we never learn in school really about how to deal with money, right?
Yeah.
We don't.
I know an entrepreneur, he said it himself. He goes, I made it myself, and none of it was to do with school. I never learned how to.
That's what I'm saying. That the government doesn't want us to know these things and what we can do with our money. And this is why, at such a young age, this is why, as most men, like for myself, for example, the last thing I thought about is anything to do with houses, anything to do with, you know, properties, extra portfolios, investments, anything like that. I was like, yeah, I'm going to focus on having a good time, this and that, you know, and then continue it. And then people spend that money on, you know, their house. The government, it goes, okay, well, just for you just to get by now, you know, you're going to have to work all the time. And this is what the government, I feel like, is doing. It's breaking marriages because they feel exactly what my father felt. I need to work all the time, but I need to get by. And I need to work all the time because I have all these things I need to pay off.
And most people blindly accept that, Tim, because they learn from the people above them who have done it before them. Life's hard. You got to work hard. You got to grind. Your dad did this. Your mum did this. We pumped it. You got to do the same thing. And as much as you want to question it, especially when you're younger, your mind is far more creative, more imaginative. Albeit you'll get a lot of things wrong when you're younger because you haven't got the maturity and you're over creative at that age. Not to mention a little bit egotistical. You're still very creative and imaginative at that age. Too much so. So you think, oh, I can just do this and make life's easy. I'll make it. This and that, the other. It's not so you understand the complexities of it as you get older and the intricacies of the terms and conditions, the ins and outs of things that you, as you get older, you're like, fuck, I can't do that. Not like I thought. So you think, oh, yeah, I'll just cruise by whatever. You want to question things because you're cluey in that, but what does society do? It dumbs you down and tells you not to question it. Even, no offense to them, even my parents used to say, don't ask, do. Don't question, do. Do as I say, not as I do, or whatever. Yeah. Well, that's actually the opposite.
Well, this is
like, you know?
This is why it's important. I mean, people will kind of know where we're coming from. They might go, you know, that 100%, that's right. You know, majority of people will be thinking this to some aspects. Yeah, everyday man's going to look at this and say, you know what, that's true, because those adding pressures is a lot. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I want to go home and relax. But then you got to spend time, you know, with your kids and stuff as well, with your wife, and then work, and then it's a brutal routine of the same. So then people get depressed because they want a day off, they want some time to themselves. But sometimes the government doesn't allow that to happen, which creates breaks in families because they're so stressed with everything.
Yeah.
And
there's no reprieve.
Because you're stressed, like when I was stressed before at my old job, my relationship was suffering for it. But if let's say this was long term and this was my job always and I had all these pressures and I didn't make that change, you know, I'd be, you know, I'll probably be even more overweight than what I was back then. I would be, you know, on the cusp of a divorce, and then I would lose, you know, my house because we'd have to sell that in the divorce. Then I would have to like try and organize how I would see my daughter, and then I'd have to start from square one again, which will put me back even more depressed, and then I've lost everything that's near and dear to me because I've lost sight of the main goal. You know, this is why any problems now, I run into it. I try and face it head on and do it. You know what I mean? This is like, there's an analogy like the buffalo and the cow, right? If there's a storm coming, a cow will run the opposite direction. He'll try and outrun the storm, right? He'll see the rain coming in, he'll try and outrun it, right? But you can never outrun the storm because eventually it's going to catch up to you.
Yep.
So he's in the storm longer.
Yep.
But the buffalo, when the storm's coming, he takes it head on. He takes those, you know, the wet, the thunderstorms, the elements, and then he comes out the other side and sees rainbows and all that kind of stuff. And he's made it out quicker than the cow who's running from it. He's taken it head on. He's taken, you know, the bumps, the elements, whatever it needs to do, but then he gets out the other side quicker.
Yeah.
Because he knows from it.
He approached the challenge.
He approached the challenge.
Ran away from it. Which
exactly.
Usually, in the case of the cow, usually it's going to catch up to you anyway.
And it's going to last longer.
It's going to last longer, yeah.
If the storm's going like this and the cow's going like this, it's running with the storm.
It's always on its tail, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well said. Good analogy.
So, I mean, I think that's the way to approach life. Just any issues that you have, you need to, if you don't know how to approach it properly, you need to get out of that stigma of, okay, I need to speak to someone about this, right?
100%.
Mental health, you need to talk to someone. Second, make a plan. How am I going to attack this? How am I going to do this? Okay. Now you've got support from those people who are near and dear to you, right? You know how to attack it. And then the most important step number 3, you do it. You don't talk about it, you do it.
You walk the talk, like you did.
Yeah.
You said what you said to your dad, and then you went through, obviously not to the same magnitude, nowhere near the same magnitude, but you still went through some stuff late last year with your other job that you made a conscious effort to go and do. Yeah, I'm going to go and do this job, and then it fucked with your head. So you had to bounce back from that, and you've done it, and I could see it, and you could see what you've yielded from that. Very important. You're walking the talk in that aspect. And look, I don't know about Tim personally. I can't read his mind top to bottom, what's inside. We're only having a chat about it. I don't know what he's thinking in this aspect or this element, but what I'd be thinking is I personally myself, Tim, I'm not saying that people cannot feel depressed. You're going to go through that state of depression. You're going to get to that state. Once you're there, now you've got to work out how to attack it. Because what's your alternative? It's like Tim says, the easy way out. Yeah, I'll live my life, no worries. Then it fucks with everyone else left behind you. Or, no, I'm going to fight this. Give it all I can. Leave no stone unturned to at least try. Yeah. You can only try.
That's exactly right.
You have to try.
It's all about trying. It's all about,
you'll be remembered for trying too.
Asking for help if you need it. Don't be afraid to do things. Move forward in a positive way. Don't be scared of what you haven't attempted yet. And, you know, as I said before, you learn from mistakes. Every single person goes through struggles. Every single person goes through mistakes and does these things. No one just pops in, you know, and says, oh, okay, I'm going to be a lawyer today. And then they're a lawyer the next day. Yeah. It doesn't work like that. They go through their studies. They push. They're determined. They want it, you know, and then they get it.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you don't want it and you're like, it's not for me, or I don't really care, you're never going to be that. You know what I mean? You're never going to be a doctor. You're never going to do this unless you put the hard work in. You know, same as a man. You're never going to be a successful person inside and out if you don't try to do it, if you don't put in the effort, you know.
To pursue what you want.
Yeah, I'm tired. Who cares? It's like, for example, when I was overweight, right? There's 24 hours in a day, okay? So I need to work out for 1 or 2 hours. So even if I work out for 2 hours, there's still 22 hours in a day. And that's what people say, I'm tired, I don't want to go to the gym.
Yeah.
No, I had a rough day, or I've got to do stuff after work or whatever. Okay, cool. If you feel like that, if you've got a job where you work Monday to Friday, go at 5 a.m. to the gym, for example.
You do it yourself.
Right? I'll do it.
Shift.
I'll do a night shift. I'll wake up. After night shift, I go straight to the gym. Right?
And sometimes you go to the gym in the morning before you even go home, don't you?
Yeah.
Like 7 a.m. or whatever, after you've done 12 hours.
Yeah, well, that's hard. Yeah, but I've done it. And then if I do 12 hours at night, in the day, sorry, I'll finish, say, 6 o'clock, go home. I'll be with my partner. I'll be with my daughter. I'll, you know, help out as much as I can. I'll, you know, do the dishes, I'll meal prep, whatever. As soon as she goes to bed, it's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, might be late, right? Even if I only have a few hours sleep, if I have 6 hours of solid sleep, cool. But now I've spent that time with my family. Now I can make that conscious decision. Okay, now I need to work on myself and my body, and mentally, for me, working out, and a lot of people, it helps beat those demons. It's, you know, there's nothing more important than your physical being. Yeah, than your health. Because you could be the smartest guy in the world, but if you've got, you know, diabetes and you're overweight and all these kind of things, and, you know, you're suffering from multiple health issues, then your lifespan's going to shorten 25%, 30%. You know, you might have a heart attack if you know, in your 40s. You don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you still might have that if you work out and you're in good condition, but the chances are going to decrease immensely from that.
Yeah.
So that's why there's always time in the day. You always got to push. You always got to say, okay, I've got it. This is my plan. I'm going to write down my plan. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. You need to have hope that you're going to do it, and you need determination and hope and a goal in mind is what you need.
I agree.
So in America, they did this experiment with mice.
We'll probably wrap up after this. But yeah.
19 something, early 1900s, right? They did this experiment with mice. What they did, they put them in water, okay?
Yeah, this is what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry. Paddling?
They were treading.
Yeah.
Treading water, right?
Yeah,
15 minutes, right? And then the mouse was fatigued. It started to sink. It drowned, right? It was starting to drown. So they've taken it out, given it a bit of a pat, given it some food, right? So they've saved it the last moment. They've put that mouse back into tread water again. Now you're thinking you'll probably only go for, maybe 10 minutes at this point, 5 minutes, because it's fatigued, it's already done it. It could only last 15 minutes the first time.
Yeah.
Right? They did the experiment. You can look this up, right?
Well, I believe
it lasted, like how long do you think it lasted for?
I think you said, was it 40 minutes or something?
It was 40 hours.
40 hours?
40 hours.
Straight.
40 hours straight. No break.
That's almost a bit hard to believe. But
it is a bit hard to believe. And that's what I thought too. I thought, nah, this is not right. So I Googled it, and it's right there. And it says, yep, this experiment was conducted on this date. These mice were put in here and they treaded water for X amount of time. It seems unbelievable. It seems like it doesn't even, like, how could you even do that? Right?
Yeah.
But the conclusion was, when they did the study, that it came down to hope. They had hope that, to keep going, eventually someone's going to take them out. So they didn't.
Save me out.
They didn't give up. They kept going because they knew, someone eventually is going to pull them back out and, take them out again, give them some food, give them some time, get them back. So they always had that determination to keep on going.
And that will lead to your point of, say, in terms of like not giving up and stuff.
Well, exactly. Like they had hope, they had determination, they had a goal in mind, and they didn't want to end up in defeat because someone was there the first time.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with support. But
yeah, no, you're right. And I think that example and that experiment is probably, I mean, it's not an analogy. It's an actual experiment. It really happened from what Tim's saying, but it's important in that it crosses over and can be used as an analogy, to say, fucking don't give up, especially when you know there's someone out there depending on you, someone that can bring you out from down in the dumps, such as it sounds like Tim did with his old man. Tim's got a mother, he's got a brother, had a partner. So yeah, it was like, Tim said, nah, fuck this, I'm stepping up here, I'm going to be a man and show my dad I can be a man myself and say, look what you're leaving behind, look what you're doing. I'm not going to stop you, but I'm also going to let you know there's not going to be a legacy for you, particularly for your now granddaughter and other two grandchildren, your brother's children,
yep.
2 boys, if you're going to be that way. So I think it's very important analogy to use. I think it's a good way to sort of close out on what you're trying to say, and full credit to you, man, honestly.
Well, it's just...
all power to you.
We all go through our own personal struggles and our own... So I'm no different to anyone else. I'm not saying... I've persevered more than any other person, because there's so many people that go through this stuff, but they're silent and they've got their own struggles, and then they think, oh, because they don't talk about it. I'm the only one that's doing this. But everyone has their trials and tribulations,
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. You need that support group, even if it's your mother, your father, your partner, your best friends, just someone,
Even if it's one person.
That's what I'm saying. If it's one person, could be literally anyone. But the main thing is, you're never alone. There's always people that care about you. Don't ever let depression defeat you, and always be the person who you want to be, not the person who depression isn't allowing you to be.
Well said. Yeah, well said. Excellent. Thanks, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. I know obviously it was fairly lengthy. It'll probably almost an hour. But like Tim and I even discussed before we started the podcast, we said, oh, maybe 25, 30 minutes, almost double that. But like we also mutually agreed on at the start is we're going to let this snowball and let it be natural. We're going to talk about everything that we have experienced, or to a degree anyway, and we're not going to leave stones unturned. We're going to do it like we're talking any other time. And let me assure you and promise you, this is exactly how we are all the time. So that's it. Thanks again, guys. Hope you enjoyed it.